Good day and welcome to Rocket with Chief, conversations to take you places. I'm Daniel, your host, and I'm super amped to have Richard Mulholland with us in studio. Richard's spoken in over 30 countries on 6 continents and continues to wow audiences with his style, his unapologetic war against boring presentations, and his unadulterated love of sales. He coaches speakers, wins pitches, and more importantly, he plays at work. Through honing his craft for the past 25 years, Richard has gone on to win awards, write books, so much. The man has cred, style, and Richard, you know your space. And more importantly, I got him. Woohoo! I've been super excited for this interview, and I've been like a kid waiting for Christmas, because someone who loves being on stage like I do, presenting in your league is like meeting a rock star for me. Here Be Dragons is amazing. But before I go on and ask you why a book on sales, Richard, thank you for joining us.
Daniel, thank you so much for having me and for that intro. It's just incredible and humbling as well to hear.
Sure.
I'm so glad. I just like that you said that I'm just unapologetically myself, which you seem to pick up on. So that's cool.
Yeah, you know, the difficulty about that must have been you must have walked into a couple of rooms where people raised their eyebrows before you were known, because you've had tattoos since before tattoos were cool.
Yeah, well, you'd far rather that they raise their eyebrows than they don't, right? Like if you walk into a room, like the last thing you want to be is invisible. And actually, when I started Missing Link, I used to wear a suit and tie for like 3 months. And when you're a 22-year-old in a suit, everyone thinks you're an intern. Okay. So you kind of have to look different if you want to be noticed. Like the executives we were dealing with, like would look down. I was just a young version of them if I was in a suit. But when I was like me and presented like myself, then they thought, oh, this guy must know something. Like, where's that confidence come from that he could walk into a meeting like this?
But now we are going to go a little bit back. You've written a great book on sales. Folks, if you haven't read this book yet, please download it. I'm listening to it on the audio side. Here Be Dragons. It's on sales, so it's in your zone, but it's also out of it. Why have you stepped from presentations into sales so hard?
Well, so okay. So let me give you the brutally honest answer. So let me take you through the backstory of how this book came about. Okay. Years ago, I was asked to speak at the Think Sales conference, and I had a lot of ideas I wanted to get across, but I had a small little, 30 minutes on stage in which to do it. But at the end of it, I knew that a lot of the people in that room were potential clients, and I needed to think of a way to get them to engage with us. So I wrote a small little 15-page book. At the time, it was called Good Story, Bro, and introduced the idea of story selling, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to war against the idea of telling your story and rather selling people a new story in which they need you. And that started doing pretty well, and people were still downloading it long after the event, and it was actually turning into sales managers coming to us for products, for sales presentations that we could help them with. And it was actually Sam, who runs Missing Link, who came to me and said, listen, this tool is really, really good, and people seem to want it. Why don't we lead in a little bit and really, really help people unpack their sales story and their sales presentations? It's something that we'd always intuitively done at Missing Link really well. And we had helped people with it, but we hadn't formalized it into a product. And as we started attacking the international market, we needed to solve a high order problem. Now, the bad news is most people don't think presentations are a problem. This is crazy to me because, the standard is so low. If the acceptable standard for swimming was the same as the acceptable standard for presenting, you would drown. But it is. And so trying to go to a market that didn't know us and, really, really shine the light on the problem of presenting was difficult. But going to a market that didn't know us and shining a light on sales problems, well, that was easy. So we lent into that. I was very, very excited. Sam said to me, can we do more? So I decided to flesh out the book. I reached out to my publisher. She gave me 2 weeks. So it was a really, really tight deadline to do it. The book was 2 weeks after work to start and finish. But it was using, at the time, 24 years of experience. And so I'm very, very proud of it. And it's had a great impact for us. And it's a great sales tool.
I'm loving it. I am challenging you. I'm listening to it at 1.2. And the only mistake is I need a pen and paper. There's so many mic drop moments in it. I'm really enjoying it. Going
That's
back,
why. Do you use Readwise at all?
I don't know what Readwise is. What is Readwise?
Readwise is amazing. It's so I normally read on the Kindle, but even if you read a regular print copy of a book, you can just take a photograph of the pages. And if you are listening to Audible, I press pause, and then you can add notes to Readwise. And what it does is it takes all the highlights of books that you've read, and it serves them back to you 5 per day. So I've got maybe 1,500 highlights of books that I've read, and every morning I start my day reviewing 5 highlights of 5 books, different books that I've read. And it's just a phenomenal tool.
Boom. I'm putting that down. That is fantastic. Going back to before you were cool, you were a roadie for one of my favorite bands of all times, for Iron Maiden. Do you ever listen to their music, or did you have enough?
Well, so, I listened to Iron Maiden a lot when I was a kid. My sisters, I'm the youngest of 3 kids, and my sisters were both metalheads, and they dressed me up. And so I had my little cut-off denim jacket with my Eddie on the back of it. Iron Maiden was one of the bands I toured with. When you're going on tour, when you're doing our legs, you tend to be with them for 3 weeks most. So it's not enough to get bored of anybody. But I am, at my heart, a punk rock guy. So I've always been much more into punk bands. Yeah, for sure. Like your Green Days, your Blinks, Rise Against is probably my favorite band. And
Rise Against,
and now increasingly some more.
Yeah, Rise Against is a really interesting one to drop in the mix, especially where we are in our age, and what they're doing against the war in Afghanistan. I don't know many people that listen to Rise Against. I told you we had a lot more in common.
Yeah, it's my favorite band. I've been to see them twice. I really, really, really enjoy them a lot.
Wow. Well, we're not going to get stuck on that. Richard, you work all over the world. Why do you stay in Cape Town? Why do you not move to New York or to London town and do your stuff?
It's the easiest answer. Every time I come home, in 2019, I was in, I don't know, like something like 26 or 27 countries. And every single time I landed home, I was like, oh, we won the lottery. Like, there's a lot to complain about living in South Africa, but I actually have started realizing that the complaints we have living here is simply a tax that we pay to get to live in one of the best places in the world.
I love that.
It is really, really incredible. And even, we came back from UK. I would like to think that at some stage, I was born in Scotland, and I would like to spend a meaningful amount of my adult life, like a couple of months at a time, maybe 6 months or so in Scotland, in the Highlands at a later stage. But that would be less about leaving South Africa, and it'd more be about adventuring somewhere else. And I'm sure there are problems that maybe could cause me to want to leave here. But right now, this is the greatest place to live. Like, I absolutely love it.
And if you go on holiday now, if you take the family on holiday, if I gave you a ticket anywhere in the world for 10 days for you and the family, where would you go?
It's different answers. Right now, we really, as a family, would like to go to, I'm the only one who's been to Japan. So we'd really, really love to do that. My wife and I's favorite place to visit is Iceland.
Wow.
So we really, really enjoy Iceland. And, I just came back from a 3-week trip with the kids and my wife to Scotland.
Awesome. Getting back to what we're here about, you've been building Missing Link and presentation powerhouses, the line underneath it, since 1997. That is just a massive testimony for how much you've created an industry around yourself and what you've done. Is it possible to sum up Missing Link in a 1.5-minute summary?
Yeah, at its core, Missing Link's job is to go to war with terrible presentations. And the reason is very, very simple. Almost nothing of significance in business or in your life doesn't happen at the other side of a presentation, right? So almost every significant thing happens when we stand up and share our ideas. That doesn't necessarily mean with slides. And we talk a lot about conversational presenting, but when humans interact with other groups of humans at scale, especially, magical things happen. Unfortunately, as I said, the standards are fundamentally too low. And most people think that you solve a presentation problem with pretty slides, but you don't. You write a good talk before you design it, before you deliver it. And Missing Link's job is to make sure that we start people at the right place. In fact, the thing that we're least excited about is the designing of the slides. If it was up to us, we would outsource all of that. For me, it's about writing a great narrative designed to move humans and then delivering that when you show up on that stage in such a way that people will never forget you and be driven to action. The Missing Link's core belief is that a presentation is to deliver a message, to evoke an emotion, to achieve a desired result. The message creates the emotion drives the result. And if we can help people understand that and get that right and understand that it's not a skill thing, it's a system thing. Presentation, good presenters are engineers, not charismatics. And once people understand that, we believe that we can change people's trajectory and the trajectory of their lives.
I like the way, that's a great summary. Thank you. What is your mom or dad? How do they describe what you do, what Rich does for the company?
Something with computers.
So they also don't know what you do.
I think now they would both know. They would both say, if you said, they'd probably lean to, if they asked about me directly, they'd probably say a professional speaker. He's a speaker guy. He speaks around the world. And they would probably say he runs a presentation company, possibly. Awesome. But for years and years and years, it'd be like randos would phone me. I think it's a generational thing, but random friends of my parents would phone me. And, oh, your mom and dad said you're in computers. Can you help me with this? and that was that.
Yeah, I get that as well. No, I can't. I can sell this stuff. I can't fix it. What's been the most difficult thing about finding and keeping your true north for so long?
Getting bored, fundamentally, and ego. Getting bored and ego. So let's unpack the ego one first, because it's probably the truest one. And in fact, it's also probably my biggest mistake. I'm not sure I've ever said this out loud on a podcast. Well, I got so, I started speaking when my son was born 19 years ago. And I was speaking on these stages, but I didn't want to be the guy who just spoke about presentations, even though that was our business. In my head, I wanted to speak about these, business concepts. And that's why my first book was on legacy thinking and innovation. And I didn't want to just be the presentation guy. And I let that go. Like, I think way back when I was doing it, when we just started blogging, that was a space that we could have owned, and we didn't. And it was my personal ego, because I felt that I was more than just a presentation guy. And so that kept me distracted. I never wanted to dig in and commit to that one thing that Missing Link did. And in fact, I got caught up in this idea of being an entrepreneur. But you see, if you are an entrepreneur, if entrepreneur is your job title, then your job is to start businesses, because that's what entrepreneurs do. You fix problems or you fill gaps. So at one stage, we had 5 companies under the cultivation group. And while I loved Missing Link, and Missing Link was always the one that made most of the money, 21 Tanks did quite well as well, it was me trying to be this entrepreneur. It was only later, and I would say within the last 3 or 4 years, that I realized, but my craft, the thing that I love, the thing that my legacy that I want to leave, is I want to change the world's relationship with presentations. And it was actually a gift that the business I started in the first place is the very, very one. And the telltale sign for this, if you'll forgive me for going a bit long with this answer, the telltale sign for this was the few times we got the opportunity to sell Missing Link, I realized I don't want to do that, because I've seen a lot of my friends, they've sold businesses. And I think there's a trap, because actually my middle name is Mulholland. My surname is from Missing Link. Richard Mulholland from Missing Link. That's how people introduce me. Oh, that's Richard Mulholland. He's from Missing Link. And a lot of my friends, they sell their businesses and they lose a big part of their identity, because the first businesses they built, a lot of their purpose and craft was tied into that. And I want to dig back into that now. And we're very, very focused. And I'm extremely focused, probably to the detriment of our business. I'm focused on the craft of what it is we do and the problem that we solve in the world.
The detriment of your business. So you're turning away offers that are outside of your focus.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're also, we're only doing work that we're excited about. We're turning down work that we're not. And brilliant. I mean, we have a specific mandate on the size of the business we want to maintain. We want to scale our impact without scaling our headcount.
Through automation, through being clever.
Yeah, through systems. A Missing Link was always about being remarkable and different, and we still want that to be the case, but the way to solve the presentation problem is to systemize it, to make the output logical, and we believe that it is, and that's what we want to do.
What do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now?
That. Okay. I really deeply wish I could go back and say, don't lose your focus, don't get distracted. The chasing of entrepreneurship is ego. And the other thing is, it's not a sport that excites me. So even though I was doing it, I was launching these businesses, I'm not that driven by wealth. So I was never willing, and also my family values are so important to me that there was only so much that I was willing to sacrifice for the purpose of growing the business. And I wish I'd gone back and said focus.
Sure, Richard, there's so much here that's resonating with my journey. If I interviewed one of your team, what would they say is your biggest weakness when it comes to working in the business?
Wow, this is an easy one. You can choose any of my team. Is that I am frustratingly blunt. I give the pendulum of feedback swings as easily positively as negatively.
Okay.
And I think that everybody would prefer that so if I saw a presentation that I thought wasn't good, I'd be like, this is terrible work. Like, why would you do that? What made you think of that? But on the flip side, if I saw a presentation that was brilliant, I'd say this is brilliant.
Okay.
And I understand that for some people that's not good, but I actually do think that we learn more on the edges. And I know that not everybody wants to work with somebody like that or somebody like me. But I think that if we want to be a frontier business, doing things and changing the way the world perceives something that, almost everybody knows already, we have to be willing to scrap it out on the edges.
Okay. I really like that as well, because it forces you to be pushing the boundaries all the time, because the edges then become the norm after a while, and you got to keep it fresh.
Yeah. And I'm trying to get better at it. Like, obviously, I certainly don't want to be a tyrant. I want us to be doing meaningful work, but I think that we waste a lot of time in kind of, those bullshit sandwiches or whatever, where we kind of hide everything out there. And I have very little patience for that. And I want people who understand my intentions.
So if we are then accepting that we're getting layers of, you've got maturity now and you're putting systems in place, what do you think the challenges that are facing Missing Link, but your industry today, what do you think the biggest challenge is, and how much has that changed in the last 5 years?
Can I answer personally for Missing Link first, and then we can decide if that makes sense for the industry? Missing Links, you have two things, right? You have what you do, you have the problem you solve in the world, and you have your go-to-market strategy. So how you get there. Now, Missing Link's entirety was because we worked in presentations and big live events and things like that. It was all about being wacky and different. So we had the offices that everybody wanted to visit. We bought the stretch limousine with the flames down the side of it to pick them up, to bring them there. We made an experience where we're an easy business to talk about, and everyone came to us. We're working with a client at the moment who describes the business she's built as being the hot girl at the bar. She says she's lazy and she doesn't want to sell. She wants people to come to her and want to buy her drinks. And Missing Link was always that company. And now Missing Link is, one, going to new markets and new frontiers, but the products that we are building require a different go-to-market strategy. And the challenge facing us is, do we change the go-to-market strategy, or do we figure out how to do it the old way, the remarkable, crazy, I want to deal with this company way? It'll be a little bit slower in the beginning, but do we do it that way and solve for that online without the offices and the props and the things? And that is certainly the challenge that we are seeing at the moment.
So it leads into the next question. You are clearly running a global expansion from South Africa, and you've stayed true to it. Any tips that you could give on getting this right?
Well, so the first thing is remove options. The biggest challenge we were facing at the beginning was there's hard money, and the hard money is international, and there's easy money, and the easy money was our old clients wanting our legacy products. But you see, we can't change the world one board audience at a time like we thought we wanted to do. Right? If we want to change the world's relationship with presentations, we have to do it at scale. So what was happening is we kept on putting these targets in place, but they were the targets about our ratios of international clients were competing with the targets of turnover and profit. Okay. So I removed them. We do not have profit and turnover targets at the moment, and we won't for the foreseeable future. There is a threshold we can't drop below because we've got to functionally run a business. But our target this year is 60-40. It's 40% of our business must be international and 60% of our business must be South African. Well, it doesn't have to be. We want that to be 50-50 and then less. But the only way to do that was to change what is rewarded. If you continue rewarding, making target, making things, doing those things financially, people will take the low-hanging fruit, which is always the easy to get income. So
people go where they paid.
Exactly.
People
so we changed that.
Wow.
And it is really challenging and it's very, very difficult. We're at 40-60 at the moment, but it's a fight. And the ratio is good, but the amount has dropped.
Okay.
So the hope obviously is that the amount at 60 would stay the same and the 40 would be added on. But I'm very, very willing to eat that for a few years as we commit to changing the people that we serve. And slowly but surely, as we get more and more international work, our fee structures change. For example, all of our quoting is in dollars. And that we quote in dollars. And now this last few weeks, we've taken a bit of a knock as the rand has strengthened, but that's okay because that's the business we're building.
Wow. Wow. I love that. I'm taking that away. Removed revenue targets and profit, rather gone for the goal targets to change the behavior. That is stunning. As a leader, what is that unique thing you carry in your toolbox that you take to every project with you, apart from enthusiasm? Because I know you bring that with you. What is that special Swiss Army knife that Richard has on every project?
I would like to say curiosity. So I'm not sure if you know that my hobby, my obsession is board games. Yes. I'm absolutely obsessed.
Dungeons and Dragons. Come on.
Exactly. I mean, I just played now. I had lunch with my son and we played a game of Arcana Rising, a little engine building spell game. And I love games very, very much. And games are very, very simple because, and it's the same thing with 60-40. That is what we refer to as a victory condition. Now, if I want to teach you, if you come over, you're down visiting Cape Town, you want to come play games, you come over and I'm going to teach you a game. I'm going to teach you Arcana Rising. I'm going to explain to you that in this particular case, at the end of the game, the magician with the most points in X wins the game. Now, I'm going to start at the end of 3 rounds. I'm going to explain to you then now the rules. But every rule I tell you will be passed against this condition of victory. So if the victory condition was different, if the victory condition was at the end of the game, the player with the most potions wins the game, well, then when I'm explaining the game to you, you're thinking about it in a different way. So when I go into any meeting, like the first question I ask them is like, if somebody's briefing me to do a talk, I'll say, if at the end of my keynote, I've not achieved X, I have failed. What is X? And then they'll tell me. And then at that point on, everything I'm doing is trying to solve for that. And so every meeting that we go into for us is a bit of a game. There's a problem we're trying to solve for. And I can tell you categorically, the fundamental problem we're solving for isn't what can we sell them. The good news is generally solving them is the tools that we have are objects that, they will be willing to pay for. So we just seek to try and solve the problem. And then, the weapon itself will be something that they'll pay for.
Another unashamed plug for your book. You go into detail on this. And guys, I've been blown away by the simplicity of this, of looking at the condition of victory for every meeting. It's really outstanding. It's a great tip. Right, we've got that one. I'm going to go off piste again. If you could have dinner with 3 famous people, who would they be? Where would you take them? And what would you serve?
Okay, the first one would be Tim McElrath. He's the lead singer of Rise Against. One of my personal goals is to collaborate with him on a project.
Okay.
The where would be, I would bring him to Cape Town and I would get my old friend Jay Mack, who used to have a little vegan restaurant called The Kind Kitchen. And I would get him to open a pop-up version of that. And I would have him serve his little Philly cheesesteak that he makes, because both Tim and I eat plant-based. Awesome. So that would be the one person.
So you wouldn't throw the 3 together. You would keep them as separate engagements, eh?
Well, if that was an option, I would always go deep with all 3.
Okay, right? So you are more one-on-one. Let's connect and go deep. instead
Well,
of
yes, I'm
crowd-based.
the most introverted person I know. Well, that's probably not quite true, but I'm deeply introverted, so I don't like crowds. Table for four is very, very possible, but I just think that I'd have a better chance of making a more meaningful connection if I did that. The next two would be Hamish and Andy. So Hamish and Andy are Australian podcasters. They're a podcast duo. They're radio hosts. They're real. I mean, I've been listening to them for years and years, and they're just so wonderfully, ridiculously fun. And I would enjoy that very much.
Brilliant.
And then the last one is a bit of a left field one. And probably if I thought about it in a different way, it might be different. But this is the most selfish businessy one. Yeah. I want to have lunch again with will.i.am.
Wow.
And the reason is
again, you just dropped an again there. So you've had lunch with will.i.am.
Yeah, so I had dinner with will.i.am. So let me explain to you what happened. This is my biggest mistake I've ever made. I actually have a tattoo reminding of it, FYP, and I'll explain to you why I got that tattoo in the end. So I'm speaking at this event, and will.i.am is one of the speakers. Gladwell's one of the speakers. It was amazing. And like the whole press conference was amazing. He came up to me at the end. He was like, bro, wait, every time you speak, you blow my mind. And he went and he asked the organizer if I could be sat next to him at dinner. And I was so blown away by this. I couldn't believe it. And the organizer came to me and said, dude, you made this great impression on Will. He wants to sit next to you at dinner. I was like, okay, brilliant. And then we chatted a little bit, and he's a remarkable human being. I really, really enjoyed speaking to him. And in fact, not to be disparaging, the least interesting thing about will.i.am is that he was in the Black Eyed Peas. As a business mind, he's just incredible. He's entrepreneurial. His ideas are on fire. He's just great. So the next day he was speaking, and I grabbed a mic and asked a question, and it was a little bit of a contentious question. And he was like, that's my guy. That's what he does. Anyway, we finished and we're all doing these book signings and signing photos and meet and greets. And I had another gig that night, and I went up to him and said, hey, well, man, what a pleasure working with you, dude. It was so rad. And I shook his hand. He was like, no, please give me your card. We got to stay in touch. We're going to do great things together. And I was so excited. I gave him my details and I walked away. And I came back and I went to my business partner at the time, Don Packett, and I said to him, hey, Don, this happened. He was like, amazing, but did you get his number? And I was like, no. And he said, well, he's never going to call you. He's going to lose your card. Why didn't you get his number? Yeah. And I was like, well, I was too shy to ask. I was like, this guy just asked you for your number, right? Of course you can say, give me yours as well. He can't say no. No. FYP, your pride. And I was so embarrassed to ask. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be that guy asking for his number. But we were two peers. And so I didn't do it. So I'd love to reconnect with them, because I actually do think we could do amazing things together. And that would be.
And has he ever called you?
No, never. And we tried everything. Never called, never mailed. I'm dead to him. He doesn't even know I exist. It was a nice time. Yeah, but that was it. And I'd love to reconnect, tell him the story and laugh about it, and then do great things. And then if you gave me a bonus group one, it would be, I would absolutely do something. I would love to have like a lunch or a breakfast with the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's my other obsession.
The who's?
The Toronto Maple Leafs, the ice hockey team.
Oh, Toronto Maple Leafs. You were speaking Scottish to me. I've watched them live. They were amazing. And everybody has their own teeth. They're all perfect, apparently. No, they've lost a lot of teeth.
They all got Da Vinci veneers.
Yeah, exactly. Is it your favorite sport then?
Oh, yeah, by far. Well, so I do a lot of martial arts myself, but like I've not missed, there's, I think, 80 games per season or 70 something games per season. I've not missed a game in 3 seasons of watching. Yeah.
And
I've been watching them since I was 20 years, the last 20 years.
Why? Why hockey? Why ice hockey?
My great aunt years ago, she'd moved to Canada just after the war. I actually did a whole video on it. I've got material on this story, a Goldcast video. I told this story once, and Goldcast sent it out, and like 20 million people saw it, which was pretty cool. But basically, she used to tell us these stories all the time about when she went to see the Toronto Maple Leafs when she was young. And fast forward years and years later, in like 2001, I bought a PlayStation, and I was at this little PlayStation store at the Ramberg waterfront. Yeah. And I asked the guys, hey, give me some games. And I think they gave me Metal Gear Solid, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and they said, get this NHL game. And I was like, okay. And I went home and I said, okay, well, I've got to choose a team. I'll choose the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I started playing and I loved the game. And then I was like, I wonder if this is on TV. And it just so happened, I checked DSTV. I didn't have DSTV at that time. And there was a Leafs game on that Friday.
Wow.
So I was like, that's it. I got DSTV. There's only like 3 games shown on DSTV a year at that time. So it was a complete fluke. Got that game. They got into the playoffs. I was absolutely obsessed. I started playing before the end of those playoffs. I started playing inline hockey and ice hockey the next year. And that was it.
No ways. That is so cool. I'm going to bring us back now because we could go down a rabbit warren. You're famous for focusing on presentations, for making them better, but being on stage is obviously one of the things you do. What is the one thing that all business people who present or public speak should change today and never flip and do again?
Let's start from a delivery point of view. From a delivery point of view, the first thing, you never, ever, ever, you do not need to see your current slide. The only thing you need to see to make yourself a better presenter, to write better presentations, is your next slide. That is the key. That is the one thing that will make everything instantly better. All I care about is where am I going? There's nothing more frustrating than seeing a presenter turn around and go, all right, so click. The next slide is, and then they speak about it. Click. All of that breaks the flow of your audience. Now, the problem is that you can't remember what your next slide is. But if you can see your presenter view in front of you, and that's why I absolutely insist in my tech rider is my laptop is on the stage next to me, because I want to ensure that in my sightline, I can glance over, see my next slide, tee it up, click, and nail my segue perfectly. The reason that's such a good tip though is because, or a trick, is because what you have to be able to do is deliver, that's got to feel smooth. Mm-hmm. And I never have to know what I'm saying next. I just need to know how to transition between the 2 points. So when you're preparing your deck, if it doesn't feel like a really nice, smooth transition, you've either got the wrong content or you've got the content in the wrong place. So it forces you to go back and think, oh, that doesn't flow into that. That doesn't flow into that. That's so jarring. Why would that be? But when you don't care about that, you just put bits of content in random orders. And so because you're trying to correct for flow, it forces you to do better. If there was only one thing you could change and it was super easy, it would be that straight away.
Awesome. I love that. You know, what came to mind when you were saying that is also this view. Where people read their slides. I promise you, most of us in the audience have passed on a trick. We can read. Don't read to me either.
Well, so let me go to war with you slightly there. And I know your point and we don't disagree. I believe you categorically must read your slides. Categorically. Okay. But your slides shouldn't have so much to read that it takes any meaningful length of time. So if I'm speaking, because one of my frustrations is you speaking, you say something, you change your slide and there's a quote there, but you carry on speaking and your audience doesn't know what to do because they're trying to look up to, should I read that or what's going on? So I might turn around and say, some look at things that are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not. When George Bernard Shaw, or I wouldn't have to read it because I would know it. Yeah. Or when George Bernard Shaw said this. But when I turn back, my audience have to come back with me. But where that fails is if you have to turn around for more than 3 or 4 seconds, then you've got to, that's your test.
When you've got 16 points on the slide, it's like just send the book.
Right. Then it's a report. Then it should have been, send the book. Yeah. But on the flip side, so what's happened is we now know that we mustn't do that, but we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. So now people aren't reading their slides, but now they're competing with their slides. Yes. So if there's text appearing on the slide, if I turn around and say, guys, there are 4 steps to missing links action framework. Step number 1, you want to give them a reason to care. Click. Step number 2, give them a reason to believe. Now, I might not have to read it because I know it's there. Step number 3, tell them what they need to know. Step number 4, tell them what they need to do. If I do that, then when I then move back into this position, there's nothing left for the audience to read. So they naturally look back and I've got their attention again.
Yeah. Guys who are listening to this, go onto the website. This is a course that is offered by Missing Link. It's just a game changer. I'm always astounded that our top athletes, if you take the Tiger Woods as my example, had 5 coaches at one stage, a fitness coach, a swing coach, a mental health coach. He had a manager. He's got all of these things. business people don't have coaches for these elements and areas of their work. How do we expect to play on a global stage if we're not getting coached?
Well, it's obviously crazy to me. The problem that kicks in is a bit of the Dunning-Kruger effect, in that we think we're better at something than we are. So the good speakers would rate themselves worse, and mediocre speakers would rate themselves better. The other problem is that we confuse skill with structure. A skilled speaker, to me, a unskilled speaker with a good structure will be more effective than a skilled speaker without one any day of the week. And what happens is a lot of people think, but I'm on stage, people love me, I'm so funny, they laugh, they enjoy it. My LPM score, my laughs per minute is so high, but you don't change anything.
Yes.
And that's the flaw. So again, our ego makes us believe we don't need a coach because people love us, but the audience isn't shifting as a result of you speaking. And that's the only job. Deliver a message to evoke an emotion to achieve a desired result. They're not achieving that result, but they don't want to learn because they think, but I'm great.
Oh man, you're making me really look hard at myself. Tell me the story about being the main character in the movie that you were talking about in your book, where you realized you might not be the main character in his movie and how that affected you.
Well, there's a fantastic book by Tom Asaker, and it's called I Am Keats. There's actually two versions of it. The one is a fiction version, the other is a nonfiction book, and I'm referring to the nonfiction. And he talks about the idea that all human beings are protagonists in their own film, right? So everybody walks around and they're the hero of their own movie. And the rest of the time, what you walk around and think of, I'm just guy who appeared on your podcast. That's it. Like when the credits of your movie run, I'm just like guy on podcast. What I want to do is not become the hero of your movie, but I would like to audition for a better part, right? So I would like our thinking to be more significant in your film. And I also think understanding that changes the way you look at the people around you. And the kind of story that I was listening to this podcast, have you ever listened to the Matt Brown show episode with Tom Asaker? He actually explains this in it. And it's a really great episode. And I was listening to that and I landed in Cape Town. And as I was walking down at the airport, there's this big long passageway after you get your bags. And these guys halfway down, they say, taxi service. And a whole bunch of otherwise polite humans ignore them. They just they turn around and just flat out ignore them. And I'm walking closer to this person, seeing this happen in front of me. And I was usually a person that would just ignore it too, keep my earphones on, give up like one of those. And then I thought, no, hold on. This is this person's film. This is like a horror movie. Every single day, this guy shows up for 8 hours, speaks to other human beings who professionally ignore them all day long. And I thought, no, I'm going to be better than that. And so, like yesterday, a call center insurance person phoned me and I, got through my Truecaller and I answered the phone. And my first thought was, this person's trying to sell me insurance, I realized. And then I just thought, well, let me see. My goal always is, how can I make them have a bit of a laugh? Like, how can I make them feel a little bit in a small way like the star of their own film for 5 minutes? I mean, I didn't want to buy insurance, so that wasn't an option. But that's always my goal for those kind of things.
Wow, that is so good. Do you think how we present really moves the ticker forward from a monetary perspective? If I am in selling insurance, if I am in IT, if I am in sales?
Well, 100%. So in any field, the person who can communicate better has an unfair advantage.
So it's about communicating. It's not about presenting. It's not about entertaining. It's about communicating.
Yes, and so I use presentation as a broad term, but even actually presenting, and let's say, because communicating could be email and things like that, and that's all important. Let's take this back to just presenting then. If I can go and if I have a fundamental idea that I want to change in the world, and I can present that on a stage, as a result of me delivering those presentations, people want to engage with us and do business. We refer to that as stage marketing. It's high authority attention. One, I'm paid to do it. Two, I'm on stage for 45 minutes with a captive audience of the right people preset for me who have asked to be there. And three, at the end of that, I've been given a platform to sell a problem. I'm not trying to, and even give them solutions, I'm not trying to sell my business. But at the end of that, if they believe they have a problem and they're looking around for an authority, the person they perceive to be an authority is me and my business. and your business. So for me, anytime if you're able to communicate well and effectively explain to people the problem you solve in the world, then they will feel like they have that problem and they will need you.
Wow. Rich, we are getting down to the end of my time. I could carry on for hours. I'm really enjoying learning from you. 2022 is a year of great change. We are still going through it. There's been corporate shuffle. There's been COVID realities, economic upheaval. We've had load shedding, down shedding, a war in Europe going on, the rise and sudden fall of crypto. What excites Rich Mulholland for 2023?
More meaningful problems to solve.
No, don't give me, no, unacceptable. Give me something. I want something more. Give me more
specifics.
Yeah.
Okay, well, specifically for me, okay, for me personally, from a content point of view, I really want to have a formulated beat sheet for a presentation. I want to codify presentations and release that. From a business point of view, I want to solve and crack the code of recurring revenue. So we're not chasing our tail, every time. We're basically a reset business every month.
Yeah.
From a world's point of view, I could it. It's going to it doesn't really matter what happens. Whatever happens is going to happen, and there's not too much I can do about it. And
circle of concern, circle of influence.
Yeah, but I also fundamentally believe that. So I really do buy into the idea. I am definitely a wartime general. Like I'm better when there's something meaningful to solve. I get very, very bored. We kind of briefly touched on it, but I got very bored of our business when it was working fine. So I do need meaningful challenges to solve, or else things get frustrating.
Awesome.
So that's a big thing, but I spend very, very, very little time in the news. And if there's something that I would get frustrated about, it would be the only thing I'm maybe negative about is I think that the world is too politically divided, and it's to its detriment. I think we're heading for an intellectual civil war and divide, and it's problematic.
Wow. Lots to think about there. Very quickly, 3 books that I should read apart from yours, because yours are mandatory. I mean, Boredom Slayers is amazing as well. And then 3 podcasts that our audience should listen to. And
okay, so for the books, I would first of all, Your Business Brickyard by Howard Mann.
Okay.
Second of all, and this is I want to say this is a caveat. This is the book that probably impacted. I read it, and then I read it years and years later, and I realized, I didn't have an original idea. This was all his ideas, and that was Selling the Invisible by Harry Beckwith. It is so dated now, but the principles are still the principles we're running our business off. Get through the dated language. It is fundamentally brilliant. And then the final one is The Happiness Hypothesis, and by Jonathan Haidt, sorry. And that book is just absolutely blows me away. I get excited when I think about it. I refer to it quite a bit in Here Be Dragons.
Yes.
He was the person who positioned the idea of, I call it the robot and the elephant. He talks about the rider and the elephant. That's from Jonathan Haidt. It's just absolutely fantastic. And I really, really love it.
Thank you. And then 3 podcasts. I know you've given us about 10. So...
Well, so I mean, and almost all the podcast listening I do, most of it, a lot of the stuff is hobby based. So, Hamish and Andy.
Okay, I've got that.
Comedy. Yeah. No Such Thing as a Fish.
I have no idea.
Just being generally smart, right? These are.
The hell is No Such Thing as a Fish?
It's the guys from QI, and they just basically share really, really smart intellectual things. It's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Okay.
And then My Dad Wrote a Porno.
No. Oh my word!
Have you not heard that?
Oh my word! No.
It is so good. It's so funny. So the basic premise is that this guy, like 20-something-year-old, finds out that his dad wrote erotic fiction around about the time of 50 Shades of Grey. And so he got 2 of his friends, and they do live readings of his dad's book. It is Just go and read the introductory episode in the trailer for season 1, episode 1.
Oh, my word.
You will absolutely die. The reason I wanted to, and I was very, very mindful, the reason I wanted to share this is we're far too caught up in business and things and stuff. And, for me, generally, if it was, most of my book reading is reading fiction. I love fiction. And I wanted to make sure there was something in there that was more entertainment. My cocky answer was going to be, and I realized you wouldn't accept it, anything about your hobby, because I believe that
What is your hobby? What is a Rich Mulholland apart from games? Because we know that.
So I do Kung Fu 5 times a week.
Okay.
I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, wow. Capoeira.
No, Capoeira is actually different. I've done a little bit of Capoeira, but not much. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is more grappling and
holds and
but
hands.
Primarily, I'm if I was 1 part grappling to I am 5 parts Kung Fu. Like I really love Kung Fu.
Awesome.
And I enjoy things like electric skateboarding. And now it used to be regular skateboarding, and I love snowboarding, but I don't get to do that enough to consider that a hobby. And I would absolutely say reading fiction is a very, very, there's almost nothing else. Almost everything competes with reading a good book for my time.
Yeah, me too. I run a lot, so my Audible account is fairly big. But what I'm listening to at the moment is The Wizard's Butler. So when people are talking to me about all these business books, I have to check in because I'm more of a fantasy kind of adventure person. But
love fantasy.
Yeah. So best book.
Nathan Lowell. Wow, gets good ratings. My best book.
Yeah. No, don't answer that. I'll get that afterwards. What I'd like to do is, what is your ideal customer? I know they won't get hold of you all the time. You're not for every client, but who do we get hold of? Is it as simple as the missing link and we can go for training? You offer so much. Give it to me again. So where can people get hold of you, and what's the ideal customer?
So obviously anybody who wants to improve their presentation or their business presentation and make an impact that way, absolutely, we'd love to speak to them, right? And we don't want to be exclusive to a specific archetype. If there were 2 people, me personally, the projects that I get involved in, the first is somebody who wants to grow their authority on the stage. Entrepreneurs that are back themselves, they have good ideas, but they know that if they could actually just structure a well-done keynote, they'd be able to use that to, 1, get paid to speak, but more importantly, get paid because they spoke. And that, I would love them to come and join our Story to Stage program. I'm really, really excited about it. We're on the 2nd build of it. We're on, we've had so many people go through it, and I'm very, very proud of it. That would be that. And then the second group is, if you're an entrepreneur or a new sales manager and you're frustrated that there is a lack of urgency or inconsistent performance of your sales team, or perception that you're a commodity, I believe that our story seller methodology will help crack the code of that. We're doing that on repeats, and that's another project that I'm very, very actively involved in. So if you've got a frustration with regards to sales in that way, I'd love you to book some time to chat to me.
Brilliant. And it is as simple as missinglink.com.
Yeah, go to ineedmissinglink.com, and then that will get you to the MSNGLNK one. Yeah.
Brilliant. I've been on the website, folks. It is an absolute pleasure to get on there, easy to get around, and you can understand it. Save the money and invest in yourself. Don't buy a new t-shirt for $1,000. Go and buy a course that's going to change your life. From me, Daniel Robus, this has been an outstanding occasion for me, Rich. I've seen you on stage. When I told my wife, she's a photographer, she said, "Oh, I'm so excited. She's photographed you so often. She loves you." And I think what you've done for our craft is just amazing. And we just wish you and the team from Missing Link the absolute best for the end of this year. Roll into 2023 and go and change the way. Slay the dragon of boredom. Come on, keep it going.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I really appreciate it so much.
Cool. Have a lovely Friday. Go forth and conquer. And I'll see you again. From me, Daniel, we're going to sign off. Have a good day.